Good morning.
Good morning.
Great to see you again. Jen's going to read to us from Luke chapter 6, 27 to 38. Thanks, Jen.
But to you who are listening, I say, love your enemies, do good to those who hate you, bless those who curse you, pray for those who mistreat you. If someone slaps you on one cheek, turn to them the other also. If someone takes your coat, do not withhold your shirt from them. Give to everyone who asks you, and if anyone takes what belongs to you, do not demand it back. Do to others as you would have them do to you. If you love those who love you, what credit is that to you? Even sinners love those who love them. And if you do good to those who are good to you, what credit is that to you? Even sinners do that. And if you lend to those from whom you expect repayment, what credit is that to you? Even sinners lend to sinners, expecting to be repaid in full. But love your enemies, do good to them, and lend to them without expecting to get anything back. Then your reward will be great. You will be children of the Most High because He is kind to the ungrateful and wicked. Be merciful, just as your Father is merciful.
Thanks, Jen. Well, over the last couple of weeks in our times together, we've been considering the theme of forgiveness. And last week, we thought through how good it is that we can be forgiven by God through trust in His Son, Jesus. And this week, we've looked at our need to forgive others according to the Scriptures. And we've considered how we can start to move forward with that even when it's hard. Today, we're going to conclude our series on forgiveness by looking at a couple of real life examples of people who have found God's strength to forgive. Many of you would have heard the story of Corrie ten Boom. She was a prisoner of war under the Nazis. Along with many other Jews, she was herded like an animal into cattle trains and taken from Holland on a 3-day journey to Ravensbrück concentration camp in Germany. The conditions there were inhumane. She was beaten and mistreated by the guards, and her sister died in the camp. Yet with God's help over time, she was able to let go of her pain and bitterness and come to a point where she was willing to forgive. She returned to Germany after the war and spoke about the reconciliation and forgiveness that can only be found in Christ. God had granted her a spirit of forgiveness. However, at one particular meeting, she saw a man coming towards her and recognized that he was one of the soldiers who'd been in charge of the prison camp. When he came to her with his arm extended, she was distressed and prayed to God, "Lord, I cannot forgive this man. Please help me." He said to her, "My sister Corrie, will you please forgive me?" She put out her hand as well and prayed, "God help me." And God, she said, provided the words, "I forgive you, brother, with my whole heart." Does the encounter mean that she had not truly forgiven her captors before this? Not at all. She'd been granted the willingness to forgive, which was why she was able to speak on reconciliation and forgiveness. It's also why when the encounter with her persecutor finally came, with God's help, she was actually able to forgive in the full sense of the word. More recently, another example we might think of is the tragedy that happened in the Amish Christian community in the US a few years back. I don't know if you remember it, but a deranged gunman entered to an Amish schoolhouse and shot 10 girls before turning the gun on himself. It was an awful tragedy and a wicked crime. And yet somehow that community found it in their hearts to publicly offer forgiveness to the gunman and his family. At the viewing of one of the girls' bodies, her father received non-Amish neighbours. He asked if they knew the gunman's family. One answered that she did, but not well. He said, "If you see them, please tell them they're in our prayers." Now you might ask, how did that man find it in his heart to forgive when no forgiveness had been sought? Well, it's not dissimilar to Jesus on the cross, is it? Unjustly tried, beaten, abused and dying, he said, "Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do." In a sense, what Corrie ten Boom did, what the Amish community did, was similar to what Jesus himself did. They prayed to God for their persecutors, With God's help, they found the willingness to forgive and let go of the hatred, the anger, the thirst for revenge that so often follows unjust or cruel treatment. Friends, let's not go the world's way when we are wronged and cling to the anger and bitterness and the desire for revenge that's so common in our world today. Let's respond rightly to the fact that God has forgiven us and seek to obey Jesus as Lord with the help of His Spirit by forgiving those who sin against us. As we finish today, you might like to just take a few minutes to think, are there people you've been unwilling to forgive over the years? Are there people that you still know you need to forgive? If there are, why not ask for God's help to find the willingness to forgive them today? Thanks for joining us again. We'll see you next week.
See you next week.